Hi folks, Seth Leapson here. Thanks for watching my monologue. In these uncertain times, you may be thinking about personal protection. If you are, I urge you to visit my friends at Guns Etc. They'll help you find the perfect protection for yourself and your family, and they can even teach you how to use it. They've been protecting Arizonans for over 33 years, and they stand for the great principles this country was founded upon. Or you can just click on gunsetc.com. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to 960 The Patriots YouTube channel. Welcome back. Happy November 10th, 2020. Cenk Uygur is one of the chief spokesman of the progressive political movements in America, a former host of MSNBC, a founder of the Young Turks. He has an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal this morning titled, quote, "Democrats Let Progressives Lead." His major point, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and their established Democrats or establishment Democrats keep losing power, while at the same time trying to put the quietus on progressives like the Squad and Bernie Sanders. He starts by pointing out that with such an unpopular president, the establishment Democrats could not find a way to pick up seats in the House or Senate, and easily should have. He then goes through some recent history and concludes that not only are Schumer and Pelosi and others part of the problem in Washington, but, quote, "Progressives have a message for establishment Democrats. Get out of the way. We know how to fight Republicans. We know how to make our case. We know how to fight for our voters. You obviously can't do the job, so let us do it." Exclamation point, close quote. The party infighting will soon commence, I predict, in a very small way, especially as Joe Biden, continually pressing that he's the president-elect, starts mentioning who he wants and starts interviewing cabinet secretaries. If he tries to select a Mitt Romney, as has been floated here and there, the progressives will go ballistic for a very short period. But that, in and of itself, points out something interesting about Republicans. In thinking about what Mr. Uygur says about the divides in the Democratic Party, we Republicans don't have that much of a problem. We see a Mitt Romney and perhaps one or two others, and take note that their power is little. The esteem and strength in our movement and party, insignificant and ridiculed. It's the Democrats who have been playing a general election game of moderation on the surface, but with a deep and cold and hard rest of the ice block underneath their iceberg surface, having party leaders pose with the Squad, Nancy Pelosi, endorsing and funding them in Democratic parties, only to then see op-eds like Mr. Uygur's written. But keep in mind, just a little common sense test. Everyone knows who Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is. Everyone knows the Squad. Everyone knows who Bernie Sanders is. Last week, Fox News was giddy to point out a Democratic Party congresswoman who blasted the socialists. Her name was Representative Abigail Spanberger from Virginia. Until last week, had one person outside of her district ever heard of her? That's the point. Remember, this is the party that actively tossed Joe Lieberman out and funded a primary run against him. He, the former vice presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, the party tossed him out and funded the primary fight against him after the 2000 election when he was the party's VP nominee. And the notion that the Democratic Party leadership isn't progressive enough is frankly laughable. They have told us via Kamala Harris that they back the Green New Deal. And if you look at what they promised in the various primary debates, as Brett Stevens pointed out, they have told us, all of them, they want to take away private gun ownership. They have told us, all of them, that they want to expand government health insurance to illegal aliens. They have told us, all of them, they want to decriminalize border crossings. They have told us, all of them, that they want universal child care, Medicare for all, student debt cancellation, and universal free college. They have told us, all of them, they want to re-engage terrorist regimes, or at least the single greatest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. They have told us, all of them, especially Joe Biden, a stronger China is good for the United States, and that China is our friend and ally, not our enemy. They have told us, all of them, riots were peaceful. They have told us, all of them, This is a country steeped in systemic racism. They have told us, all of them, they would do anything they could to destroy Brett Kavanaugh and his family. They have told us, all of them, that Amy Barrett was not qualified to sit on the Supreme Court. How much more progressive? Heck, let's call it what it is, socialist. How much more socialist can a party and its leadership be? What, after all, aside from verbal praise of other dictators, is the policy difference between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, or Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris, whose voting record is rating even further leftward than Bernie Sanders? But you may ask, say he does put a Mitt Romney or some other Republican in his cabinet. Won't that show moderation and reaching out? Please. This game has been played for years. It means nothing less than window dressing. Bill Clinton had Republicans in his cabinet. You can't name them. Same for Barack Obama, even at Defense and CIA, and it meant nothing. At least nothing for Republicans, and nothing that dissuaded or conditioned the liberal or left-wing desiderata of the administration. So I return to the theme of the past week. If Joe Biden is our next president, will I be the first to continue to say his claims to moderation and being the guy who beat Bernie Sanders will mean and amount to nothing? Yeah, to remind, Joe Biden was never quite a moderate. He was always just in the center of where the Democratic Party was, or is, and the center does not hold for moderacy. This is the subtext of Cenk Uyghur's op-ed, reminding Joe Biden who his party is, not threatening the leadership of Pelosi or Schumer. And we will be reminded, all of us will be reminded very soon, if Joe Biden is declared the victor, declared by those with just a little more officialdom than CNN or Fox. This always happens. When Bill Clinton, running as a true moderate, acceded to office, do you recall his attempted appointment of Lani Guinier? Do you recall Jocelyn Elders? Do you recall Hillary Care and Ira Magaziner? When Barack Obama was elected, do you recall Anita Dunn, who praised Mao Zedong? By the way, she, Anita Dunn, was an official advisor to the Joe Biden campaign. Do you recall Van Jones? Or for that matter, Obamacare, not anything he spoke of on the campaign trail, and recall not getting a single Republican vote because the Democrats didn't need one or care to have any. Bipartisanship, even on the most massive piece of domestic legislation in a generation, thumbed its nose at any pretense of Republican buy-in. It is a party that simply doesn't care about bipartisanship or moderacy outside of a general election, and even there it seeps and leaks. Now, as for today, I'm in the I still don't know camp. But I will say, if Al Gore can litigate one state's election outcome for over a month, a fortiori, another candidate could take the same amount of time on what looks to be at least 3 states. As for the merits of the cases and claims, that is what our reporters and journalism is for, no? A reporter comes from the word rapporteur, one who gives an account. As for what journalism is, I go back to the journalist's creed, quote, that the public journal is a public trust, that all connected with it are, to the full measure of their responsibility, trustees for the public, that acceptance of a lesser service than the public service is a betrayal of this trust, that clear thinking and clear statement, accuracy, and fairness are fundamental to good journalism, close quote. Now I give you John Hinderaker. Yesterday, GOP chairwoman Ronna McDaniel held a press conference and unveiled 131 affidavits and 2,800 incident reports documenting fraud and other irregularities in the election in Michigan. Reporters were unimpressed. In Wayne County, Republican poll watchers were denied their legal rights to monitor the election and purposefully kept in the dark. There are thousands of reports of poll watchers being intimidated and unable to do their job, and as of 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon, 131 affidavits had been completed just in Michigan, with over 2,800 incident reports that have been submitted since Election Day. 2 new lawsuits were filed yesterday by people who were working in Detroit and a whistleblower. You might think election integrity would be of concern to reporters. No. One intrepid news person at the press conference asked, "Do you know that fraudulent votes were actually cast?" McDaniel jumped back in to add that the whistleblower in Michigan has sworn an affidavit alleging being told by a supervisor to backdate ballots that came in after the legal deadline, witnessing poll workers, encouraging voters to vote straight Democrat, and even poll workers going into the booths with voters. These allegations of illegal votes being counted must be examined through the legal process, she said. A member of the press asked again, "Do you have any evidence you can show us today that illegal ballots were cast?" An exasperated McDaniel replied that backdating ballots is illegal, and that would mean they were cast illegally. The press did not seem to grasp any of it. By the way, that would be the same press conference yesterday that Neil Cavuto cut away from because he said there was no evidence for any of these claims, all before the evidence was spoken of. Clear thinking and clear statements, accuracy and fairness, indeed. But if you're opposing fascism, any effort will do, of course. I warned about this a long time ago. Once your political opponent is identified as a fascist, you have established the natural right to use any means necessary to oppose him. In fact, the Declaration of Independence says just that. And now I wonder at long last if maybe the left really does turn out to be the most literal reader of the Declaration of Independence after